Hey there, my friends. We're going to do an old-fashioned kind of video around here. I don't know why I said that like that. I never did like a year in review because I was in a bit of a funk, and just with the world the way it is, it didn't feel like the right time. Blah, 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 blah. But last year was a really beautiful year for decks. Old and new for me. So some really amazing lifer decks showed up last year. And some maybe that aren't quite lifers, but I adore anyway. And it was just a really good year. So let's just, in no particular order, look at some stuff that I thought was primo last year. And I just want to give some love to the creators of these decks because they made like a shitty year much more joyful. Again, in no particular order, I've done videos on most of these, but maybe not all. I can't remember. First up was Teya's Tarot. This is a reprint of a 1984 deck that was created by... Oh, I don't know if the artist's name is on here now. Anyway, Ruth West. It's right in front of my face. And a friend of mine had gotten this. My friend Liz had gotten this, and showed it to me, and I was like, I love these sort of woodcutty looking. They're actually not woodcuts, but they look like it. I was like, oh, I'll never get this deck, because it had long been out of print. But I just thought it was gorgeous, and I just loved the art. And so this just kind of unexpectedly got reprinted in 2023 by Metonym Press. They did a reprint, Metonym, METONYMY, or I guess metonymypress.com. So anyway, if you want to, I don't know if there's any left, but if there are, it's just a beautiful deck. There's one or two cards that, for some reason, the artwork is landscape rather than portrait, which is a little pet peeve of mine. But other than that, it's really beautiful. There's one. It's a small thing, but it's a bummer. But again, like a small quibble and a beautiful work of art. And so, not a deck that came out in 2023, but it was a deck that was brought back into the world in 2023, and I love that for us and for me. So that is Chef's Kiss, which I will probably say a lot, and I am going to try to remember to put these on the shelves behind me. Next up was Tarot of Life by Mariah Aller. And I definitely did a video of this one. And another one that I think this did come out last year. And I fell in love with it. I saw this on Annie K's channel, I think, is where I saw it. And it's a deck that has freshness and simplicity and some really interesting choices, and it's really representational, and when I've used this for people, they're always really excited. And I'm looking at this. I haven't used it in a minute, but I'm just remembering why I love this Tippi Hedren deck. Like, just some really cool choices. And that's what was exciting to me about this. And a lot of these decks, many of them took tarot to a different place. And that's very exciting to me. So yeah, this is the Tarot of Life. And there's the creator. And who's also a cool person. Follow them on Instagram. Follow her on Instagram. But I love this deck. So, and you're going to hear me sing that a lot too. All right. We can put you over here. Again, no particular order. This was not another deck that came out. I don't think this came out last year. I think it came out the year before. But it was a surprise. I was reading at one of the night markets for Halloween, and I had my Halloween tarot, and the person said, oh, I've never seen this before. I just have that jack-o'-lantern tarot. And I thought, jack-o'-lantern tarot? And I remembered that, oh yeah, this was a deck that had come out. It's a strange deck. Because there are jack-o'-lanterns on every card. It's not a particularly, like, autumnal or Halloween deck. There's just jack-o'-lanterns and skulls, and it reminds me a bit of Bosch in that art style, sort of slightly scary, but cool. And the color palette is cool, or rich, I should say. The color palette itself is very warm. Yeah, so a bit of a novelty, which is a thing that I don't typically find myself attracted to, but I quite like it. You know, it's got it's its own thing, and it, I guess, reminds me of like stories of childhood or whatever. So, and I love the backs. So I just again thought this was like a treat. I haven't used it much because I got it after Halloween, but I definitely did a vid on that, and we're actually going to stay with that theme. A similarly exciting theme for me. Where do you want to live? You're going to live there. Was the Silver Acorn deck, which I fell in love with as well. And this one I've used quite a lot. This was a bag that I bought with it. And I don't remember where I discovered this, but it was absolutely love at first sight. It's cuter than I typically allow myself. But it really is. You know, a bunch of years ago, I did a tag, decks that make me happy, and like this is that. It delights me. Like it's so cute that like even my hard heart, is softened by it. And I live for it. And I love the choice of the card size. Like it feels so tarot. And I love when a deck has sort of a really, I don't know, I love this Hermit. I just adore this deck so much. I'm grinning, looking at it, and just remembering how much I loved it when I saw it and was so happy. And actually, it reads great, and it gave really great readings and really sort of sassy readings to me. And I typically have a hard time reading for myself. Like I'm not a cat person. I don't have any problem with cats. I am a Leo. But I'm just not like a cat person. But like there's cats all over this deck. Oh, look at those sad little root vegetables. I love it. It's charming, and it tickles me, and I'm very, very glad that I have it. And it's so cute. I love it so much. So good. Staying on the topic of decks that have a really fun and satisfying size, is a deck I just did a walkthrough of, an unboxing of. This is the Marseilles Tarot, and this is a new. This was a Kickstarter last year. It's a modern multimedia adaptation of the Crowley deck by Lady Frida Harris, and it just arrived last week, and I fell in love with it doing the walkthrough, and I love this deck. It's absolutely going to be a one that I use. And I love the size of it. Like when I got it, I thought, oh, this might be a little large, but it shuffles really nicely. And just the card size feels so, again, it just feels like a tarot deck. It's like some decks just sort of feel like a card deck, but like this feels like a tarot deck. So if you know me, I loathe Aleister Crowley. And I tend to be relatively judgmental of Crowley stans, although, I'm not a jerk, so I'm sure some Crowley stans are fine human beings. The more I learn about Crowley, the less I like him. But I've always loved Frida Harris's paintings. I thought that was a gorgeous deck. And this sort of brings it into like a fresh perspective and includes people of global majority, and it's it's just a beautiful experience. I hope that this is, if it's not available more widely, I hope it becomes available. I know, it was a bumpy ride for the creator Kickstarter wise, but I'm so glad that it funded the second time, and I'm so glad that it's here, and I'm so glad that I get to use it. This was a deck I hadn't heard anything about. And this falls into this interesting landscape that Hay House is doing with basically finding successful Kickstarters that kind of fit the brief of what a lot of folks have been saying in the tarot landscape about representation, and just bringing those to mass market. I don't know that that's a bad policy. I don't know if it's a good policy. It's a fairly opportunistic one, but at the same time, it's putting decks on the shelves of Barnes & Noble that people are more likely to see themselves in, and so is that bad? I don't know. Everything's complicated by money. But at any rate, this is the Unfolding Path Tarot by Athena Noctua. And apparently, I didn't know this, had been a Kickstarter deck. This back is so freaking gorgeous. And the color palette of this deck is gorgeous. I really love it. It kind of calls back in many ways to the classic Robin Wood in terms of color palette and art style, but that was the whitest deck on the planet, and this is not. And it's got all different ages, and that's the thing we don't see enough of. And just the people in it are beautiful. Look at this Emperor; he's so handsome. It's Waite Smith, but it's updated, and I think it's fantastic. I believe I did a video on this. I didn't use this as much as I expected I would, because around the time that this came in, I got my idea to do my keywords experiment, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. But I just was so excited about this. My friend, the same friend that I mentioned earlier, who I mention all the time, said, "Oh, I got this deck, and it's kind of pretty." And I was like, "Oh yeah, another Hay House deck," because I'm a judgmental person. But then I saw the cards, and I was like, "Oh fuck, that's actually really great. Like, what's going on at Hay House?" I don't know. This cardstock is a little questionable in that it's thicker than I would like for a tarot deck. I can shuffle it, but you can see it's bowed. That doesn't bother me, but it does bother some. It has it's meaty. It's a meaty deck, but very shuffleable in my hands. And I have small, weak hands because I am very uncool. The Unfolding Path Tarot, adore it. Gorgeous, and one that will absolutely get used. This is one of my favorite decks of recent ever. The Estrella Tarot. This, at the time I got this, I got one of the last copies of the original print, and so when I made my video, it was out of stock. But it is back in stock, and you should get it. This is another deck that when I read for folks, I immediately get like, oh my god, I love that. It is a Marseilles style deck. It is bright and colorful and representational and cool, and oh, I love it. The color palette, it's so summer, and that's when I was using it at the market. It was summer and spring, and everyone was feeling it, and really, really, really just a winner in every single way. I felt the cardstock was a little thin at the time. The new edition has linen stock, so if that interests you, I like the stock that this was on. It shuffles really beautifully, and it holds up because I used it a lot. You're gonna go there for now. Another Marseilles deck is the one thing I'll say about this is that everyone in it is paper white. But it is a new kind of Marseilles style deck by Grigeli Begamari. And I adore it, and it's like the cardstock is cool. It's got this really rich, fresh, close-up feeling to Marseille. I love these big-headed people and their pink, wigs, and so there's like this sort of queerness to it. It is, it's all white. That's the thing. But I mean, it's a riff on a Marseille deck, and it just, I don't know. It's just, and it's, again, I've done this, and I use this one a lot too for myself because it's the one I carry in my work backpack. It's a very sexy shuffle. So this creator is one of my faves. He has so many good decks. This is the only one that I have at the moment, but I'm certain there are more in the future. Because whenever I see his Instagram, I'm like instantly obsessed. Yes, the box is the one thing that I don't like about this, but I really should get a bag for it. All right, let's do this. We'll stay on the pip decks for a bit. This was Taroki by M. Freeborg, and this is the vintage edition. There's two. I actually prefer the other one, and I don't know where I put it. That was the one that I brought to New Orleans with me, so it might be in my suitcase still. I remember when I made this video calling this a sexy deck, and it is, but it might seem like an odd thing to say because all of the people are skulls and skeletons, but it is. I don't know why. I just think it's got a very fortune-tellery, old world bronzed quality to it. There's no white faces in this. And the cardstock is super sexy. Like, I just love it. And there's 2 expansion packs that would make this into, I think, a Minchiati. I adore this creator's work. They do. He does, I think it's he. I'm now embarrassed that I did not check because I didn't expect to talk about this. But just beautiful social media posts about Halloween or Christmas, things that it's hard to describe. Just go to their Instagram if you don't know him. And yeah, I just love this deck. I love the vintage version. This is the first one I got, but the reason I prefer the non-vintage version is that nothing mars the beauty of the artwork. So dig this deck. Again, what a crazy good year for decks. There were 2 more Marseille-style decks, and just for the sake of variety, I'm going to save those, because we did the Maria and then these 2. Those are both Pippies. They're Pippies. So we'll do something not Pippy. Oh my god, I cannot get this thing back in this. Talk boxes are a treat. All right, you go there. This did not come out this year either, but I got it last year, the Super Lunaris Tarot. It's a collage deck, and collage decks can be hit or miss. This one is quite a hit. Weirdest cardstock I've ever experienced, but I kind of love. It actually shuffles nice, but I could see if I get a little too rough with it, it might bend. Being a collage deck, it is treated digitally in such a way that it feels quite painterly, and not like someone just ran it through an app, because I've seen those decks too. And it's a beauty. It's Waite Smith. It is featuring people of global majority. I haven't, none of these have I sort of sat down and counted, but this is pretty representational. Sorry, I got distracted by how pretty the cards are. The thing about doing what I do is that I'm so this was all just last year for me. Not all these decks came out last year, but they all came to me last year. And it's I want to use this, but I can't use every deck that I have because I don't read that much. You know, I mean, I read in spurts. Like, this is not a time of year where I get a lot of readings. But yeah, I don't know how to describe this cardstock. I've never felt anything like it. It's sort of linen, but it's thick and it feels like it's got a core. It's not that plasticky linen. So really strange, but I love it. Hold on one sec. Gotta put this out. Sorry, multitasking. Oh, and that back is beautiful. So Waitesmith, beautiful gorge. I know that this is not the only edition you can get, so there are different cardstocks. So check out their shop. This was another one that didn't come out last year, but I got it last year, and I think I got it last year. And it's out of print, sadly. Although I do see it popping up from time to time on eBay, not on eBay, on Etsy actually, and some other like UK vendors. It is the Lubanco Tarot, and it is a gorgeous work. It is very queer, and that's how I discovered. Actually, was on a list of like super queer decks, and this was a love at first sight situation. Discovered that it existed, then discovered that it was out of print, and then discovered a shop that had it, and quickly availed myself of 2 copies, just in case, as I do. And I thought, like, this might be the only deck I ever use again. And then when I used it for clients at the market, people were like, ooh, this deck is intense. And I knew it was intense, but I didn't think people were going to react that way. So I haven't brought it since, because it might be a little serious for the average, person curious about, getting a reading for the first time. But I love it. I think it's astoundingly good. Where do you want to live, Lubanco Tarot? I think you're going to live on top here for the time being. What is next? Tarot of the Crystal World, another Kickstarter. And this arrived at a time when a bunch of really great decks were showing up. This also came with a little Oracle deck, which is behind me, but I haven't used it. It's another Waitesmith deck. It's, again, a very kind of queer, interesting... this may have been dropped. I don't know. No, it was sitting out here for a while. I don't know. It's got like a 60s art style to me. And it was an immediate, like, when I saw the Kickstarter thing, I was like, oh yeah, I need this. And then, kind of forgot about it, but I love it a lot. I have read with it a bit. Again, it was a year for a lot of really good decks, and so I feel like a lot of decks that, would have otherwise been, like, power users in any other year didn't get the care and attention that I would normally give them, but it's got kind of a cowboy feel. I love this card. I don't know why. But yeah, I love the style. I love the palette. Why are there reversals in here? Maybe I did drop it. It's fantastic. I think it's really stunning. So I don't know what the story is with this, if you can get it. I hope you can, because it's so fantastic. But, I don't necessarily, you don't necessarily know what happened to Kickstarters after you get your stuff. Like, they don't send updates in that way. Wow, I have so much more to go. I guess I'll just do this. This is the, I think this was last year. I can't remember if it was the year before. I think it was last year. This is the Magical Nature Tarot, and it is a deck made on eco-friendly paper with eco-friendly inks, done with this sort of paper cutout and die technique. It is absolutely beautiful. The cardstock feels so good. It is absolutely beautiful. I think I've said that like 3 times already. And local. It was made in Massachusetts, if I'm not mistaken. And again, it was one that I saw someone post on Instagram and instantly fell in love with. It is so earthy and warm and handmade, and paper even feels handmade. Like, I wish you could just feel it. You know, again, it's such a beautiful shuffle experience. I've never felt cardstock like this before. You know, it's got a little bit of texture, so it sort of does what linen does, but not in the same way. It's not as slippery. Yeah, it's a gorgeous experience, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful work of art. Excuse me, my throat's getting dry. Yeah, so gorgeous, gorgeous stuff. This was the Magical Nature deck. Excuse me. This is the mass market version of the Fifth Spirit Tarot by Charlie Claire Burgess. Their book also came out this year, which I am reading slowly. And this is the more or less the same deck as the indie version, which I also have and also love. I use this version purely because of the titles on the minors, which I found really helpful. There are a couple changes card-wise, nothing really major. But again, you know, this is another Hay House deck. And this is a deck where, when I use it with clients, every time someone says, "Oh my God, that looks like me." And I can't tell you, you know, as a reader, how good that feels. You know, I guess in a really selfish, sort of non-altruistic way. But, you know, a reading is supposed to make people feel seen. And so, you know, feeling seen is it. That's the point of this. So I think this is wonderful, and I use this a lot. And I use the indie version a lot, too. Let's go back to a couple pip decks. This is the Marseilles Prendre Vie by Annie K. I think this is the final version. I had a preview version to share with you, too, earlier on, but I can't remember which is which, because the boxes looked kind of similar, and I'm kind of, like, brain dead. So, I love, again, this has this multimedia feel. It is majority people of global majority. It is bright and colorful. It's it's everything that, like, you don't see in normal Marseille. You know, it's rich and colorful, and the cardstock is nice and bendy. And there's texture to it too. And just so cool. I love the like the choices in the arabesques, I think they used to be called, the flora, you know, so we've got like squash blossoms and corn, and I just love that. You know, it's just little thoughtful things like that I think are really exciting, and they're the kind of thing where, like, maybe you don't notice it until it's in a reading, but then you're in the reading and you're like, oh wait, look, that's a squash, you know, and corn situation. So, you know, let's think about what that means in terms of, like, harvest season, for example, or, you know, whatever. And then there's a happy squirrel. That, I think, comes from The Simpsons, if I'm not mistaken. I remember the scene. It's like someone gets death or something, and like, oh, that's fine, don't worry about that. But then they get the happy squirrel, and it's like, ah! This was the Tarot des Ambiguïtés, a title I wish I could pronounce better. It is on the other side of the Marseille spectrum. It looks very much like old Marseilles. But what we're getting in this case is parts of the body. So arms are swords, and hearts are cups. So there's this very kind of, like, dystopian strange and ambiguous, odd landscape. And this creator has a new deck that's sort of a... All right, well, I've been talking so much that my memory card ran out. So I'll do the rest of these relatively quickly. So anyway, just a strange, fun, weird deck. And again, this creator has a new deck out that I'm interested to see. It's a sort of Marseille weight mashup. Homestretch, actually. This is the new edition of the Bonefire deck. Yes. Which, my only qualm about it is its borderlessness, because the cards are, rich in detail. But, I had liked but not loved the first edition. The cardstock was terrible. And I just felt like there wasn't enough representation to get all the accolades it got. That's been improved somewhat. I don't think necessarily enough, but I think enough where it's noticeable. And looking at it this way may be a little hard on the eyes, actually, which is why I wish there were borders on it. But I haven't found that to be, too much of a thing. And when I lay it out in 9 card, I leave a little space between them. But for a deck like this, I feel like a border is nice. But I like the size, so I'm not going to complain too much. So yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by this overall. The cardstock is weird, it's too thick, but it's better than it was. You can see how bowed it's gotten. I've shuffled this a lot. And it's a workout, but it was the old glossy cardstock. This is a bag that I got at Pyramid Books in Salem, and I just love the bag. I really, 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 really like this new edition a lot. This was a deck that I think was made to showcase the printing company's work, what they can do. So it's a Waite Smith clone with this sort of holographic stuff going on, but it's actually gorgeous, and the holographic stuff looks a little tackier in the video than it does in real life, but it's really beautiful. So I backed it because I thought, ooh, this is pretty art, and that was really the only reason. But actually, Waite Smith style, kind of beautifully rendered. So I was surprised by that. It's really, really pretty. And there were 3 versions. This was the only one that I liked. But I just was like, wow, who knew? And this back is gorgeous too. I don't even know what this. I think this was called. What was this called? The Soul Sparkle Tarot. It's selling on eBay still, or it was when I made the video, but really beautiful. But I think it really was a promotional tool. The Metanoia is another one that was recent. May have come out this year, not last year. Another Marseille style, quite beautiful. And these are extra cards. Fun cardstock, shuffles really nicely, beautiful color palette. Again, far more diverse. I don't think it's a global majority situation, but I think it's far more diverse than we're used to seeing. Beautiful blue edging. And it's just a stunner. It's even more beautiful in person than I thought it was going to be when I backed it. And I just... The color palette is just exceptionally beautiful and very spring. So I'm trying to move through these relatively quickly because I do have videos about most of these. I'm going to show you a couple of Oracle decks. I'm going to show you the Messenger cards. Not a new deck, but it's one that I wanted and thought was out of print. It's not. And it's just these beautiful paintings of animals with some keywords on them. And the little guidebook is quite nice. And I use this only for me, and I don't really use it a lot. But when I've used it, it's been really, really interesting. And I just think the artwork is so evocative, and beautiful and earthy and whatnot, and I haven't made a video on it because I really, I don't use Oracle decks much, and I like Oracle decks, but I don't find them that useful. But this is one that I wanted and have had some really nice readings with. So I just think that's a stunner. It's not no revelation there. I think people who have known this have loved it. I go back and forth on whether to even talk about this one. I have been asked to do a video on it. I'm not going to, because the problem is that this is a very strange situation. This is an off-brand print of the Greenwood, which is supposedly public domain by the wishes of the artist, but not by the wishes of the original writers of the book, who, depending on the creation of the deck, may be right. The thing about art for hire, which is typically what happens when a tarot creator wants to make a deck but isn't an artist, they'll hire an artist to create the artwork, just like, theoretically, Waite Smith. With most publishing contracts, the copyright of the art for hire is frequently owned by the creator or author rather than the artist, or in some cases by the publisher. I don't know what the deal was, and no one's been very forthcoming about that, and the mystery being that the artist seems to have disappeared. Willingly. They don't want to be associated, she doesn't want to be associated with the deck, with tarot, is what it sounds like. One of the creators has been trying to reprint this for a long time, claiming that he owns the copyright, which again may well be true. That's how a lot of those kinds of deals will work. But anyway, the story is that the creator is fine with people having their own prints of it, but they don't want it marketed, they don't want it sold. So the images are out there online, and various friends of the tarot community have made files for make playing cards so that they can be printed with the original keywords, but without the borders. And so anyway, I just happened to come across one of those times. It keeps getting taken down, it'll come back up. But the reason I'm showing you is that this came across last year, and it has given me some of the most amazing readings for myself that I've ever had. I only use it for myself. It stays sort of in my little space, but it's a stunner. I have the Wildwood, and it's beautiful. It does not give me the same readings that the Greenwood does, and so I hope there is an official version that comes out, but whatever happens, I hope the artist is being compensated. The print that I have was sold at cost, like my my Marseilles. So when you buy that deck, I don't make any money off, or I make like a penny off of it, because you can't sell a deck for nothing. That's the same deal with this. So no one's making a profit off of it, but every once in a while it gets a copyright hit. So, strange situation. It's why I won't use it for clients, but I use it for me, and it's kind of a stunner. This is an old deck, one of my first decks that I used this year for my keyword experiment, and it became quite a good pal. It's the Voyager deck. This, for some reason, is having a moment right now anyway, which is one of the reasons why I took it off the shelf. This is not my first edition, which was much larger. The newer edition is much smaller, and as a result, it's easier to shuffle. This has become bowed in a weird way, which tends to happen to my decks in the winter. I don't know why. It's not bad. There's just a little click. But I love this deck a lot, too. And then maybe last, but certainly not least, maybe my favorite deck ever? Question mark? One of. It's certainly the one that got used the most, and I got it very late last year. It became part of my keyword experiment, just like the previous deck, and it's the Sun and Moon. I was going to bring this out earlier when I did the other with the Marseilles Tarot, which is also a Thoth-inspired deck, but this deserves to go last because it truly is just one of my favorite all-time decks. I use it all the time. I use it for clients all the time. While the people aren't necessarily realistic, they are in, shades of humanity, including sort of natural hair for women of color, and just I don't know. I love it so much. There are keywords on it. They are the Golden Dawn keywords, which I don't like. One of the lessons of last year was sort of seeing past that, or when I needed to, And the thing was, the reason I did that was because I always say, I tell students or folks who take workshops with me, don't necessarily run away from the stuff you don't like, because there might be a lesson in it for you. And so I said, well, I should take my own advice. And so I said, I'm going to do that. And I went through all the decks that I have that had keywords on them, and from those I chose the Voyager, got a new copy of it, and then I chose one that I didn't have, which is one that I'd always been interested in but just never bought because of the keywords. And it has truly become my go-to of 2023. It's a very interesting deck in that the readings will have very interesting color transitions or color stories, because each suit has such specific colors. It's a very blue deck. Blue is weirdly not my favorite color to look at, but with the mix of these rich earth tones, I find it quite beautiful. It is not my favorite back, but it's fine. Weirdly, what I realized after the fact was that both of these have very similar backs. So anyway, I love this one. I'm looking for a bag for it. I haven't found the right bag or box. It's living in its US Games box. But who knew my favorite deck of 2023 would be a 10-year-old mass market joint that I didn't look at because I was being a snob. So anyway, that was a collection of fantastic decks that came into my collection in 2023 and early 2024. I hope you enjoyed this lengthy rant and look at some beautiful cards. And I hope you're well. Take care. Some upcoming things, I'm going to be introducing you to my bone reading kit, which sounds very naughty, but it's not. And some other stuff. A couple decks that have been on my shelves to talk about. I've got the First Occult Tarot, Robert and Place's new deck, which I want to talk about, but have very mixed feelings about. I've got a couple mass market decks that I'd never heard of, the Kirky Tarot. So there's some stuff that I've got on my shelf, but I thought this would be more fun. So take care, be good, and we'll talk soon. Bye.